on for the webinar on niche recruitment, effective measurement of domain-specific niche skills, Finance Edition. I'm Purva from People Matters and will take you through the agenda for today's webinar. Recruiting for domain-specific niche skills, in this case, measuring an individual's efficacy towards finance control, budget and resource allocation, and reducing cost to maximize working capital for business growth can be very challenging. This webinar will talk about finance best practices, finance talent discovery and sourcing, finance talent measuring skills with the recruitment effectively, optimize the finance experts' time and with measuring knowledge versus hands-on skills. We have the privilege of having with us Sanjay Kumar, Vice President and Head of Fino Paytech Limited. Sanjay is responsible for the organized strategic plan of supporting the design and execution of business unit strategies through the development and implementation of HR strategies and solutions that support short and long-term business objectives. He has a vast experience of over 2 years. Prior to joining Fino Paytech, Sanjay has been associated with brands like Reliance Group, EXL, Bharti Airtel, Convergys India, HCL, and ISPAT Group. Our partners for today's webinar for making this program possible is Metal, with an online assessment and testing platform to measure, analyze, and improve people skills. It is ideal for companies who want multi-competency assessments for their prospective hires or existing employees. Metal focuses deeply on the science of assessment and combines it with advanced technology to deliver highly valid and reliable tests. We have saved time for you to ask your questions webinar. For those watching the live webinar, you can submit questions at any time during the presentation through the question and answer section. We will try to respond to as many questions as time allows. We have a full exciting agenda for the web day. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand over the webinar microphone to Sanjay. Over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to share with you my points of view on effective measurement of domain-specific niche skills. For today, we will be focusing on finance. To begin with, I'll be starting with and then I shall be moving on to specific finance function hiring. I would like to spend some time with skills as well, the nuances which are in that, because it is important and it's also highly relevant in finance hiring. So let me begin with the first slide, which is share with you the contents, a table of contents, so that we know what is the structure of the presentation, so we have a quick understanding. So we'll begin with some thoughts on measurement of skills. We'll move on to recovery and sourcing. After that, we'll talk about hiring. This is where it will start defining itself to the specialized domain of finance. Then we'll talk about measuring knowledge, and finally, of course, we'll move on to the measurement. So let me start with a little discussion on the topic. I have chosen measurement of skills. Is it possible? Maybe not accurately. The reason human beings come. In my next slide, I will show you is because an approximation is highly desired to measure everything. However, human behavior is a subject phenomenon. Secondly, human beings come as a package, and they do not come as an array of skills which you can buy. So human beings are more than skills that they deliver. These experts or the soft skills or the management skills they offer. They come along with this strengths, weaknesses, attitude, predilection, biases, and their world. It all comes as a package, and you have to deal with that person in a team, especially if it becomes complex in size. So with that, I would say the fact of the matter is that measuring is highly desirable, but it's very difficult. Never the attempt should be there. HR professionals and the recruiters have a strong understanding of human behavior as in practitioners of behavioral sciences. However, over a period of time, we have seen that for some reason, maybe because of the delay in earning a seat on the board table, or because of earning a seat, delay in earning a seat on financial decision-making table. The profession we developed the complex, for want of a better expression, I put it there. So the HR professionals are created by an existentialist angst. They started aping the finance and marketing and the business leaders, and in that they started trying to quantify whereas this approach is and desirable, and it does. However, it does have limitations. At the same time, we should remember the specific ability of the HR professional, which differentiates them from the rest of the corporate community, is dependent on the fact that they have much more well-rehearsed and much deeper insights. This is based on objective as well as subjective people during interviews. The intuitive understanding is equally or more important. Nevertheless, coming back to the topic, whether on finance and hiring professionals. When we are trying to ape the approach numbers and quantification, putting a number to everything, most of in model already use matrices, some other ways of measurement. However, some part of it is always subjective. Let me give you an analogy. Science, the hard are amenable to measure precise principles and factors that are impacting a phenomenon. Physics, chemistry, biology, other science. On the other hand, the behavioral sciences are a social science. They do adopt big approach. Nevertheless, an observation has limit there. So behavioral sciences would have include different parts, eclectic science, so from psychology, social anthropology, sociology, and behavioral economics, primarily. These subjects are social science, hard science, follow scientific approach, yes. So we must remember this as it would be enunciate a bit this aspect of the journey that we're going to commence now. The most important in an organization is to understand the job and to hire the right person. This is something which is a given and does not be mentioned even. So I think we'll start with the general understanding of the parameters, overall parameters for any department or any specialized vocation, and we'll move on to a specific finance function. So now we must also remember that cost of a long recruitment certainly has more implications and more damage. It causes more compared to any other aspect of organizational activity, and this is true for cross levels. It is all the more important at the senior level. To the extent that it make or mar a company, at least for a certain number of years. If not over a period of long. Recruitment, selection, and induction, which I would say now just sound more updated than onboarding. These are the three dimensions of this activity. We must always remember to make a differentiation between recruitment and selection. So then we'll talk about it as we. So all the recruiters are the touch point of the candidate, and they are expected to demonstrate soft skills, interpersonal skills, and professionalism, a very high degree of professionalism. In addition, it is imperative to have good domain knowledge, so that when they are connecting with the employee, they are into a meaningful discussion right at the outset and are able to gauge those parameters proficiently. Only this will be able to save time of the departmental recruitment managers and the HODs, head of, in this case the CFO and the finance managers. This capability is required across levels, but the functional expertise level, it's high. Even a certain level of behavioral skills is a recruiter must be able to gauge both these skills astutely. Flavor of both as we grow from a junior to a senior level, and we'll talk about it. Now, I think I will not read out some of the things that every recruiter, of course, tries to discern in a candidate first and during the interview. Tries to validate that finding. Of course, the recruiter does operate with inputs from say a psychometric test used or any other tools and techniques. I mean, rarely, because of the costs involved, there is an assessment center involved in certain positions, but that's not something which is very common. So, let me move on to closure of discussion on the recruitment, and then so move on to finance. So I would like to just share with you the standard diagram, which is extremely important. So at the junior levels, it is the functional and the technical, which is very important. These skills, of course, vary. So let me, though it's a general discussion, let's start with the finance skills. For example, when we are junior level, or even a middle level. The junior level, of course, is the doer, and the middle level is a supervisor of the same skill sets. I would say. At that stage, we are looking at a strong understanding of accounting and financial principles, processes, and practices. An advanced understanding of comparing and analyzing financial statements like profit and loss statement and P&L, which is the cash flow statement sheet. It also involves providing management with financial accounts and data analysis, and of course compliance of all accounting standards. Now these are the skills which one would monitor at the junior level is well versed with, and the supervisor can handle team since the supervisor already has undergone this journey and has a high level of proficiency and can review, guide, and coach the team and show that the job is done. However, as we move up that, for example, financial officer, at that level, conceptualizing skills which are more important, and this must begin at the recruiter's level only. Because the level of the recruiter also varies. If it is CFO or a very senior recruiter would be involved. If it is a manager level or if it is an executive, there will be a junior level person. So, what is important at the senior levels is not technical or functional skills. So, in finance, of course, I'll call it functional skills in that sense. So, the functional expertise. This is not to undermine the importance of knowledge of the functional skills for a senior candidate. However, that is given. It's hygiene. What is more important is the ability to conceptualize at the senior level. At that level, something strategic considered on initiatives affecting global depending on cost, tactical actions, and resource allocation long-term initiatives. It can especially relate the consulting account control, especially related to the mergers and activity. wherever that is the case in point. Could be related the capital capture, how much equity ratio for a certain enterprise, certain evolutionary stage, and in a certain system. The contribution planning is of course very important, so that the financial strategy is objective. Some of this, of course, at debit levels also, and understanding of the valuations and analysis, or the NPV, because there are ways, and the financial professionals should be well versed with that. In case the company is not merely looking at the business model, revenue is high and costs are low, and there is enough cash. If it is a company is in growth phase, for example, it's so true for the e-commerce companies. Their valuation becomes very important. Fundraising is important. So, of course, the finance professionals should be the junior level and mid level be the doer, and then the senior level from a strategic standpoint, because to be able to understand the budgeting, acquisition, transaction, discounted cash flow method. And not only that, we also be able to understand the latest market trends, not just domestic markets, but international markets, where it impacts, and in most cases it does. The senior finance professional is also expected to understand the Brent crude oil pricing, how it is evolving, the environmental factors, the government debt crisis impacting the different countries, and also things like Fed rate and labor rates, which are stand parameters and indices which affect the global economy in all the country, far and wide. The positive and negative of mentioned budget, not only in the company but these finance budget. Of course, all these factors are important, and they vary from levels to levels. So I'll move on next slide. The measurement of fit with the job requirement. Of course, the job description has to be made in conjunction with the hiring manager, and a lot of discussion should happen there, and it should go to the nth detail so that the fitment is gauged properly and correctly. There are many methods. There could be a job description, or different companies deploy methods like job evaluation, the job evaluation score in the job description itself. Or there could be more of the job evaluation technical parameters like the budgets or the revenue or the staff control, or even subjective parameters involved written down in detail depending on the position. There could be psychometric tests, there could be other tests at the levels, for example, like reading the one could engage with junior level in finance professional, especially accounting professional, the ability to read and interpret P&L or balance sheet, because in an interview it is a bit when you're trying to find out the real skill, especially at the junior level. It might be important in many contexts to ensure that you are having the success. Now, before we move on to finance side, and we'll talk about discovery and sourcing. Now, social media, of course, is gradually acquiring to make language, especially it's extremely important. People are also looking at YouTube, but the video series are there, and this is something which you can read and to add across. Hunting and usually senior level positions. And there are other channels, of course, which we talked about. At senior levels, of course, referrals from the industry, not employer referrals, are extremely important. People even now go to the space on the Facebook and other portals to ensure that. So I would. What the point I'm trying to make has not remained a personal side only. It's also linked to the many recruiters read it as well. With this, we will move on. I think the hiring of each skill, finance. I did talk about it while talking about the different levels, but we'll be more specific to this now. First and foremost, any finance professional, what should look for is he or she must have a sound business acumen, a general functional expertise, and high proficiency, and outstanding soft skills vary on level, the role the people might be required to do individual control. Out there, the interpersonal will not be that important as it would be for a finance professional who is engaging with stakeholders or with prospective investors. Expertise with analysis, data, and regulatory issues is extremely important. These are some very good qualities to look for in a finance professional. Out here, I would stop short at the CFO level or the financial controller, even the next level. Ideally, is an analyst. She or he is only providing you with his insights, but also foresight. That is the difference. That is what would differentiate a strategic mindset of the candidate. So that is that ability for senior level and mid-level candidates to be able to gauge is very important. Out here in this slide, I have a list of the functional and behavioral requirements for the senior level hiring. I have covered some of the low cover compliance. Functioning of the board, that's extremely important. Point here, which I have not covered briefly. And I'm sure while I let me go back to my initial statement. Most humbly, I mentioned that reiterated that I am sharing my thoughts with you. I'm sure all of you call. It's it's an opportunity for me to connect. And I just hope for interaction, but I'll be taking questions. So it's not so didactic. I know all of you are doing this day in and day out, and definitely I would seek your inputs on call as well as later on as well. So which would also continue by learning. It's a continuous process. So going back to the slide, the understanding of the function is extremely important for not only the company secretary, but also for the finance professionals, CFO, and maybe CFO two levels below. I would say or mid-level finance and professional. Actually, there is nobody today. Those are the guys doing everything with the seniors, front-ending with the board members or the different other stakeholders. So they must have across levels, I would say, an understanding of the expectations of the investors, not only in the sense of the format of the reports, but maybe sometimes the flavor from an investor to the other. Many of you would have experienced that. Equity your decision, of course, is extremely important for the finance function, which is spearheaded by the CFO. Among the behavioral attributes, what is most important? Ability to have poise. A sales guy and the marketing. Because I'm not it's a general leadership ability to have poise. But it is more important as finance professional. Even if the sales guy, the marketing professional become worked up, sometimes the CEO also is or she is patient. It is the CFO who is expected to maintain poise and the balance of the market in all situations. It is the finance function. It is obviously the holding office of the company, and they have to be very mature. They are like others in that sense, and ensuring their well-being. So that's something extremely important. they must be able to be very responsible to status in the sense of whatever is changing. If there's an organization change, if there's a vertical change, the CFO is logical to the CEO. The others, of course, our successor is the marketing officer. When I say obviously is that those companies where the CMO heads the sales as well as marketing function. And this becomes very important in case of crisis, where you see unfortunately because of sometimes not proper continuity planning, or in case of demise or illness happening to CFOs. We are seeing this time, and the CFO actually is expected to stand up and hold the to for the company. These are some of the behavioral attributes important. And ethics and integrity is something which forms the basic DNA of professional compliance. Compliance is implied there. The next slide about tools and techniques. What is that? And if you can just read it, I'll take a minute's break and have a gulp of water. Thank you. As I mentioned, for the earlier level, there are various assessment tests. The method is required, and there are skill tests like the Excel test or advanced Excel test. I've seen so many programs and they are extremely good in Excel, but they don't know macros. Sometimes, whereas they would know it. There are so many other aspects of business skills, be it even a presentation skill, reporting. I think it is extremely important for especially the beginners and even executive or senior executive level. Different organizations have hierarchy, but at this level it is important that this is administered by way of a financial report to candidate by the recruiter to study it and to interpret the answer. The recruiter needs to first to be able to ensure that right answer and to be even relate to the candidate. Job description is important, and the evaluation is done by the company. Most of us do it now. It's a great need. Description is something which they must go word by word and ensure that the candidate's skills and behavioral attributes in tandem with the Move on to the next, wherein not full skills, but there is some measurement of the behavioral skills or attributes. So I would request you to just go through the psychometric test, like test profiling of 16 PM test, which does give some inputs about the candidate. Yeah, so this profiling and 60 tests, and there are so many other, of course, psychometric tests. It's or any other test. And there could be a start and check. Reference something about. So first, let me talk about the psychometric test. One thing which must be guarded is that the recruiter who is administering the psychometric must be trained and certified in the usage. Not only of the test. I mean even the report where or in the end of the day which is there. The second thing which is extra is that the interviewer, be it the recruiter or the functional interviewer, which is the manager of finance or the senior level finance professional who's interviewing, must not go blindly by the findings of the psychometric report. Because all psychometric reports have the wrong answers. They are just trying to attempt to study the mind of a person, and your individual is unique. That's the basic premise of behavioral science, and we must always keep that in mind. So the psychometric test findings have to be looked at only from two strands. One, whether they have a fit role which is required. If a role requires high level of meticulousness, whether it is there, or if a role requires high level or high fluency, whether that is there, and both are different. So for finance professional, I think the eye for detail is extremely important. And the interviewer should also ensure psychometric test is only the findings and not taken reference check and background checks must ensure that we go by that. Background check, I would usually and typically in most of the companies how it is used is for finding out the educational background, past 2 companies experience. That's a standard form which is by most of the companies. Of course, there are many others which go in further detail. So in background check, the agency, the third party agency, which is a background check, usually connects with the institute or the university to ensure that the degree is correct and the enrollment number and other details are matching. Whereas in there is address proof and other tests, they ensure that happening. Now. So this is what. Whereas the second difference, it is with connecting with previous HR professional or the finance professionals or the supervisors in the previous companies, and trying to find out about the candidate. We must keep it in mind that this is a double-edged, because this could be sometimes because human beings are what they are. Sometimes, in some cases, be marred by the relationship of the candidate with the person with. So we must talk to the way to negate this or eliminate this bias in the reference for check process is to talk to multiple people to come to arrive at an understanding. Second, the discussion must happen in a structured manner, whereas points should be enumerated basis the job description about the candidate. And can be the different reference checks on the candidate can be compared on same parameters, and only then one should arrive at that. There are many biases of the people who you are asking about. Also, one should try to eliminate, especially in a globalized economy today, and where there is diversity, be it differently able diversity, different ethnic cultural groups. One has to be very careful there, ensure that only the information pertaining to the job is what should be considered. So that filtering has to be done by interviewer, be it the recruiter or the functional interviewer. For example, finance professional in this case. With this, we move on to the next slide. I would urge you to just read this because one of the things is very measuring knowledge versus on skills. We have all come across individuals who have brilliant knowledge, experiential knowledge. When it comes to thinking, sometimes they have not been able to, bring it down from the drawing board to the situation or on the reports in this case. So let me try to distinguish between the two aspects of intelligence. And borrow here from. So on the one hand, we have crystallized intelligence. Crystallized intelligence is perhaps based on what lies in the mind of the candidate. What she has studied, academic, be it any certifications further, and learning from experience in the previous organizations. Exposure situations, various forms. For example, in finance, if someone has worked on SOX compliance checklist company, ethics and compliance, different level. If someone has worked on IFRS, we had to implement IFRS from April 1, 2011. Because of the various requests from bodies, industry bodies, as well as the Institute of Accountants and other agencies, government has been owning that. So an employee who's worked on these standards would be pretty much different in approach, tone, and of work compared to the rest of us. These exposures to different problem-solving skills, which have been applied in complex situations and in different context, where there has been scenario building of man has been doing a lot of financial modeling for different investors and changing it over a period of time. The long-term strategic long-range planning, down the annual budgets and changing it. The IM investment annual report, the IM reports. So all this exposure to this, and the best way is of course apart from academic important is learning by doing, and that's more effective. So all this finally crystallizes in the mind of the doer, and that's why it is intelligence, and that's the beauty of the human creation. It just resides there, and when the situation comes, it is right there. It gives you the insight. Okay. Whereas we think we work very hard, especially for it actually happens automatically. Most of it is subconscious mind, and does not have to be loud, every time. Already there. It's already crystallized intelligence. Whereas fluid intelligence is something which is very equally important, sometimes more importantly, which is the hands-on skill, which leads to scales implementation. Fluid intelligence depends on the quick and correct understanding of the situation, grasping various subtle there in the situation, while discussing with the investor, while the discussion of the CFO with the CEO, or various function heads. There are so many said, there are so many there's so much body language happens, so many organizational dynamics happening there are informal grapevines. So the CFO or the finance professional at any level, be initially aware of this. So when a certain situation comes, the ability to grasp the situation assimilate it, internalize it inside, and to come up with problem solving initiatives with solutions at mid level and at higher strategy. That is what very important. It's like standing thinking on one's feet. Basically, I am tempted to also call it being street smart, but since that is a term of disapprobation, I would refrain from. But it is something akin to that. So that food intelligence, and we all, as I speak, I'm sure all of you would be really recollect your different experiences there. So that is the distinction between and food intelligence. The ability to work with people in difficult situations, especially the ambiguity, calls for a lot of fluid intelligence. And that's why you would have seen that there are a lot of people who have done very well in some organizations where they had a good senior, but when they became the head of the department or head of a vertical at the management level or a regional head, and when they were exposed to the so to say vagaries of demands of various functions and stakeholders, then they start having jitter, and they're not able to do so. The only reason is fluid intelligence there, where you have to be independent, and that of course continues with us. Thing is like continuous intelligence. It grows on and on. I'm not trying to use the psychologist's theories on intelligence, of course. That's my outset. My individual belief. It's honed like sales intelligence. So fluid intelligence, I would is more important than crystallized intelligence. Then there are I'll move slide. Some things which are not mentioned is why actually let's go through the list of benefits of the measurement. Right candidate leads to employee, misconduct, fraud, abuse of confidential information. So this is more for HR, the recruiter's responsibility, and less of the function, the finance recruiter. Readily available referrals, test results, of course. I mean that saves the panel's time. Definitely do that. Attrition, of course, is something. At this point of time, as we speak, the employment outlook, which has been for the last, let me say, 7 quarters, is drastically changing, going changing in the next quarters. The employment outlook is very high. So the ultimate test of recruitment is in whether the employee got confirmed, whether the employee got confirmed, whether the employee was able to earn her bonus well, was able to get a good performance rating, to get a good increment. These are the final recruits. So in the organization that I have worked 7 years, about 8 years, I have always with the help of my teams, implemented a quality of higher matrix, where the accountabilities have been distinguished. So what the recruiter's responsibilities are and what is the functional interviewers, the finance interviewers' responsibility. If the employee has indulged in some misconduct, is very aggressive, unduly, that is the accountability in my mind of the HR recruiter. Whereas if the employee is not got more the accountability, because I'm not involved the recruiter from that, because he or she is the initial person who filters information or engages those capabilities, and must have that discernment. Nevertheless, an employee candidate doesn't get confirmed. That is the functional interview responsibility. Similarly, the bonus increment, I would say, is more tilted towards the finance recruiter. Whereas this confirmation or attrition within 30 days or 90 days is happening, or 180 days also. Till 6 months, I will the HRSIU, and I have always gone by that. Responsible for attrition 6 months. Beyond that, it is definitely the boss. So it is the interviewer as well as the supervisor. So it's good to have a quality of wherein clearly differentiated accountability with weighted scores out being there, so that everyone knows what is doing. In many of the previous companies, I've seen that there have been interviewers, not recruiters, functional interviewers, finance managers, for example, or operations managers who've been found in. So we used to keep the records there. One must have those records. Now, of course, it's all automated, so it's not so difficult to ensure that able to know who are those who's hired candidates as an interviewer, who's hired candidate leaving early or not performing well. So then skills works for them, or even if that doesn't work, maybe different place. So these are some of the tangible actions which studies of recruitment was I have not mentioned standard things like the CV to shortlist ratio, the offer to joining ratio, and the C to joining ratio. So these are some of the standard things where one must look at the channel mix and evaluate each. Be it referrals, especially when you're working with this, the placement consultants, all the executive firms, it becomes important. With this, I come to the last station, and recruitment, especially in finance, and generally any other department, both in art and science. I would say science and art. So whereas you can see Da Vinci on the one hand, on the other by Mona Lisa on the one hand, by Da Vinci you can find there itself. So it can be an art and a science. It is a science. We have filtered whatever I have spoken, and there are many, in management and training, and each recruitment. We have to remember that it's the part which becomes specialized intelligence. Ultimately, beyond that, it becomes an art, and depends on every individual. So with this, I would like to end and invite for questions.
Thank you so much, Sanjay, for such an insightful. We have a few questions here with us. So, the first question that we have here is, how important is it to have financial experience before we hire for a finance this thing? So, for example, we have the example of the CEO of Credit Suisse who has no experience in finance whatsoever. So, how important is it to have financial experience? Sanjay, are you there?
Hello? Yeah. Are you able to hear?
Yes.
Sure. So, Purva, what I just mentioned was, my response to this question would be that experiential knowledge is always desirable, very desirable. Nevertheless, it is not essential to have financial experience for recruiting. So, when I say recruitment, but of course, what is important is if you can have someone as a recruiter who has financial knowledge is very good. But it might not always possible. And I think every recruiter educates herself or himself, before doing a recruitment. It's not only finance. You see, in that case, all the IT recruitment is done by most of the people. Some people who have IT knowledge in IT or technology developers or database administrators, but there is a large section which is more technical in that sense, that which does not have IT recruitment, but they learn with experience and the various languages, the various verticals within recruitment, and it is extremely important to understand the nuances of the subject. Finally matters. We need not have experience in that.
Absolutely.
Because you will also be added interrupting you, because usually it is desirable that you will ultimately get a finance professional to do the interview. Later on at the stage.
All right. Well, we have another. So Varsha asks that if you can suggest some new strategies for recruitment, because as nowadays social media is booming. So if you could suggest some new strategies for recruitment.
Right. So thanks for the question. Varsha, I would. Sometimes people say that almost everything in this world has been said, there is nothing new to say. So I think recruiters have been very smart lot and have now adopted and used almost all strategies. Some of them novel, entirely new strategies. Of course, what I can think of is there are different ways of referrals apart from the portals, and there are so many social medias and groups which are formed. One very common thing is an ex-alumnus which is created nowadays. So I have used it and it's been highly successful. So many companies have their ex-employees on the which has been created like institutes, and good referrals come from there. Referrals as in the candidate who are referred. Apart from that, a lot of inside candidates are there. So I think that is one of the important ways, new ways, relatively new ways in which recruitment has moved on. Secondly, of course, I have recruited for different industries myself as well, like most of you. If you have some, your school help you a lot there, especially when it comes to global recruits. New thing that I had used when in Africa in a telecom company. So I was heading HR. Of course, it was not merely recruitment. I was the human resource officer for 6 countries, and for that organization, started with due diligence, and especially the initial stage, it was all about hiring and onboarding. So in a new country, it was very difficult to do that. So we had two places. It depends on the so whereas I'm not able to give you a new way, but I must say that it depends on the context more. So in that context, dependence on the local consultants were extremely high. Let's take the example of the oil companies. Recruitment, partly done by the operations drilling companies, like Shell, for example, in Dubai or in say Abu Dhabi. Let me take a specific example. So they and maybe Russia or USA as well. So most of the oil companies have a very close network. They are well, they know each other by name. Or there is a group which has been interacting. So networks which are there. In that is the context which works. So it would depend on the context and almost everything which I had mentioned is the sources.
Well, thank you so much, Sanjay. So you had mentioned that eye for detail is very important. So isn't that true for every hire, for every field? So if you could elaborate a little more, why only finance?
Right. So I feel it is as you rightly for all departments, but it is relatively more, I would say, importance of finance. Dealing with numbers and the financial reports, the accuracy, and the ability to discern where it is not is a professional forte. I've seen financial controllers coming up with at least obvious to me or the marketing guys so many times. That is with the eye for detail. For example, to give a very quick example, a finance professional, unlike the professional, starts with looking at numbers. Doesn't get befuddled by the smaller numbers. That ability comes from their seasoned eye for detail over a period of time, which becomes a So since they financial professional numbers, various kinds of data, compliances. So even one small can be damaging for the company. They have a holiday, and that's why they usually always have a detail, and it becomes more important.
Great. Well,
One error in a financial short.
Please go ahead.
Well, it's fine. I think I've completed. I was just saying one a finance professional can cause a loss of business. That's why for detail is more important. And they have to be advisors to the in investor community organization to the CEO. So for detail actually. Marketing and sales guy is also HR guy. Everybody looks up to the professionals for having whereas departments have different strengths. Individuals also vary within the department, but by and large, as I said, the recruiters have and the HR professionals have a stronger understanding of behavioral sciences as practitioners and understanding psyche and behavioral attributes should have usually have different insights. Similarly, the eye for detail is better with finance professionals. Not to undermine the fact that others should also have it.
Well, thanks so much, Sanjay. We here. So, Varsha again, she's asking how much extent poaching is ethical?
That's a very good question. And so sometimes there are questions which don't have a right or wrong answer. So, and I give it to my initial statement. That is my. See, poaching is as damaging as cannibalization. It's like breeds and it is like harming oneself. So you look at different examples. For example, I've worked with telecom companies, IT companies. Both these industries have had, I am not able to find a word which is blood, and I can't use the word which is used. So it was a bloodbath. I got a word. So it was a bloodbath between Airtel and Vodafone, which was hot some point of time. They had to come to a poaching agreement. Otherwise, they were just not go ahead. Despite their right market, Vodafone would launch at that much, which is now Vodafone would launch one scheme. The same 2 hours later would launch a scheme. That was especially Delhi circle. I call that kind of bloodbath which was there. But they have to come to an agreement on poaching because otherwise the employees kept on moving from the other. The costs were higher, business continuity got impacted. So poaching beyond the point to define a course, but it is certainly highly damaging. Obviously it's ethical, less more damaging. Ethics is a question which is so I'll come back to the damage which is caused. I still remember Convergys and IBM, which was then they had to do a no poach agreement at some point of time. I'm using some examples. Companies say they are general companies. So there comes a time when beyond a point which happens, it is impossible to sustain without having a poach agreement for affected parties. There are less number of them, despite having a very staunch rivalry in the market. Coming to the ethics part. Now that's something which I would tread carefully because now for an employee there is no loss of ethics if two companies or him. So there is no how you look at it. Whereas for the recruiters. Yes, I mean, if you start trying by poaching another company's employees, certainly you don't have any metal there in the market. If you're doing say 10%, 20%, some X that kind of percentage, I would say it's beyond that. I would feel it is illegal because you are trying to not play by your strength or reduce your strength, but trying to just easily get like make or buy. Unfortunately, these terms not desirable to be used for human being, which are employed in this context, but it is make or buy. So if in the Unilever classic case, it made what which are all still. But I suppose poaching there was not all companies started poaching from Unilever, or all the employees of Unilever. So I would to some extent it's fine, but when it becomes systematic poaching in large numbers, unethical for the root well.
So much, and thank you. So we have a couple of more questions here, but since we're short on time, we will take them offline. But thank you so much for such an insightful session. So with this question and answer session, we're going to wrap up today's webinar. Once again, we would like to thank our webinar partner today, Method, which is a talent management expert. Finally, a special thanks to Sanjay, the speaker for this webinar, for his time and invaluable information that he has shared with us today. And I would like to thank everybody in the webinar audience for participating in today's presentation. We will come back to you with many more. That concludes today's podcast. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you, Purva. And thanks to everyone on the webinar.